Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, your host, ready to take you on this exciting adventure around the world. I'm here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We are coming to you from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios, and we have a really fun heavyweight showdown between two of the top museums in the entire world. And that is Paris's Louvre versus the Met in New York City.
Right.
And museums, some people like them. Some people feel indifferent about them. But these two are two of the heavyweights. They are two of the most popular ones in terms of just people that visit them every year. The amount of visitors, I should say, they see every single year. And it finally, after that weird period with COVID, numbers are kind of going back to where they were before all of that kind of shut the world down. And so it's good to see that people are back going and visiting museums and going to see beautiful works of art again and kind of being out in these cities.
Right. I think both of these, everyone's at least heard of them. And maybe it might be a little bit of a Europe versus America, who does it better kind of thing. But you and I have been to both of these, and we have feelings on both, great and could be improved upon. So we're going to kind of compare and contrast the two and let you know our thoughts and why you should see both if the opportunity arises.
But at the end, there has to be a clear-cut winner, right?
Well,
For best museum?
Yeah.
I mean, yes. And I know we can't compare all the museums because there's all kinds of fantastic museums around the world, but these two are by and large probably the most well-known.
Right.
And for those who may not know, let me go ahead and say the Met actually stands for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Mm-hmm. Okay. People just shorten it to the Met. So there are some people out there that honestly don't know what that stands for. So let's compare some key stats first off before we get into other things about it. And by the way, we're going to get into comparing their iconic pieces, up against each other there, head to head, their global reach. Also, we'll get into their architecture and atmosphere, and then just like the visitor experience and the vibe of the place. So we're going to match these things up as best we can and see, if you had to pick today, one ticket for either place, which one should you pick, right? So the key stats, first off, the Louvre is old.
It's old.
The Louvre is old. Like it originally started as like a palace or a defensive fortress, I should say, in the, I think 1190s.
Wow. Okay.
But the parts of it that are still standing, it's been refurbished for years and years and years. The wing that's still standing that was, I think, initially part of a palace I think under Francis I in France.
You're getting into the history part of this. That's beyond me.
I think that goes to the late, I want to say late 1500s, 1590 or so. I mean, it's pretty old, right? It's been around a while. And from that point, it's had all kinds of different uses. Again, a fortress, a palace. Now it's been a museum though since 1793.
Oh, wow.
So even then, like the museum itself is almost as old as the United States as a country. Okay. It is over 650,000 square feet of exhibition space. It's huge. You and I have been to both of these places, and the Louvre is, wow. It is
huge.
Large.
It is huge. And both of these places give you a map. You need a map to figure out where you're going. Like you could just wander around, but if there are specific things you want to see, you're probably not going to just happen upon them. You need the map to find your way around these places.
Yeah. And I think because the Louvre is it was a palace and it, was more set up as a residence, a giant residence compared to the Met, which was set up as a museum. It's not like in that kind of museum feel where you just kind of go in from one curated thing to another curated thing. I mean, you have to go to a room and that room only has one exit. So like people are coming and going when we speak of like the Mona Lisa and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you just have to kind of find your way around. Whereas the museum, the Met, like
it flows.
It has a flow to it.
Right.
The Louvre itself also has, at any given time, up to 600,000 works of art. Not all on display at once. They keep around 35,000 to 40,000 pieces of art on display, from sculptures and traditional art pieces and all that. But they have a huge, huge collection.
Wow.
And as of about 2023, 24, like I said, post-COVID, the numbers are going back up. But before COVID, they were clocking about 10 million visitors per year.
10 million. Mm-hmm. Goodness. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Now they're about 8 million. But the numbers are climbing way back up there. Let's give a response from the Met, right? So the Met was basically founded in 1870 as an answer to Europe's giant art scene. A bunch of fancy American businessmen got together and were like, we can't let them have all the fun and things. I don't know. So it was kind of a response to it. Honestly, they were like, let's get together and make our own kind of Louvre. Specifically, they wanted to point out, at the Louvre and say, we want our own destination art piece.
Okay.
Art destination. There you go.
So it was a competition from the beginning.
It was. That's why this feels so natural. It was a competition even though a lot of people probably won't go that route. They won't say, oh, it was a competition, because it's no competition. It's always a competition. Let me say that. They have upwards, depending on when and how and all the other things, but they at some points have almost 2 million pieces of art or objects or different pieces around their exhibits. And it is just like a flagship thing. Everyone knows that in New York. It's one of the centerpieces of travel to New York. It's often listed as one of the top sightseeing destinations when you visit a city full of sightseeing destinations. Right. And as of post-COVID, numbers are reaching close to the 5 million mark, getting back to close to where they were before COVID.
So it's a contender.
Yeah, it is. They are both. They have decidedly different feels, and they were set out as almost a competition with each other. Well, since the Met was created 700 years after the Louvre started being created, but it's kind of one of those things.
Well, the thing I didn't know until just recently was the Met actually has a secondary museum, or location, I should say, also in New York, at a place called the Cloisters. So it's not just one museum, whereas the Louvre is this one building, this giant building. But the Met is the main Metropolitan Museum, and then a smaller secondary location a little bit farther away. So that also kind of gives it a little bit of a leg up.
Another unique part about the Met is their costume department. Right. And you hear about the Met Gala every single year, that Hollywood elite and people like that go to this fancy thing. They get all dressed up and everything. But the Met has that fashion exhibit that kind of sets it apart and really adds to its collection, because you're talking about costume pieces and period pieces from around the world. And some of the greatest designers ever have pieces that are held like, where is that? It's like underground in a special vault or something.
So the Fashion Institute is on the lower level, which is like the basement level. Yeah. But when you and I went, they had a special exhibit that was on one of the main floors where they had curated some pieces to be open to the public to see. So we didn't have to go down to the basement.
But they do keep it on site.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, that's pretty darn unique, man. And they do say, here's a little bit of quirky stat here. If you took 30 seconds to see each and every piece inside the Louvre, it would take you over 100 days to see everything.
Wow.
If you just sat and stared at everything that they have. So, and that for the Met, their fashion exhibit draws more people than a lot of museums see throughout the entire year just to come see that fashion piece, that costume. So it's a heavyweight showdown, the Met versus the Louvre. Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-host and co-explorer Amy.
Hello.
Coming to you from beautiful Sin City, Las Vegas in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studio. Sorry, I'm laughing because like my voice gave out as soon as I started talking. I was like, hello. We're talking about, well, just kind of sizing it up as a showdown between two heavyweight museums in the Louvre in Paris and the Met in New York. And, we were chatting a little bit about the Met has a special gala every single year that you probably see, if you look at TMZ or any of the gossip rags or any of the fashion magazines or anything like that. It's the Met Gala, and it draws people from, celebrities and rich people, I guess, from all over the world. But what is that?
Right. Well, and when we went to the Met last year, you didn't realize this was the same place that we were going into because you see the pictures of it. And then when you walk up to the building, it doesn't feel the same because, for the gala, it's all, in its Sunday best, I guess you could say. Sure. But the Met Gala is an annual fundraiser for the Costume Institute that is what we were discussing, that's in the basement level of the museum. Okay. So it's an annual fundraiser that they have specifically for the Costume Institute. But it didn't start that way. The Met Gala was established in 1948 by another publicist as just a fundraiser and continued on as just a fundraiser for various charities, and then eventually was taken over and is now specifically for the Costume Institute. But a ticket to the Met Gala, as of last year, the price increased to $75,000 a person. So these people not only come dressed in a fancy costume because there's a theme every year and they're encouraged to dress in that theme, but they also have to pay $75,000 just to have a chair.
So they pay $75,000 a ticket to raise money.
No, that is the money. That's the money that the Institute's raising.
The gala is the fundraiser.
Yes.
For the gala? For the Institute?
Yes.
So they used to give the money to charity, and now they just basically keep the money? Is that what that is?
Well, I'm sure they actually do something with it.
I'm sure they do something with it.
But it does say it's held for the benefit of the Met's Costume Institute. Now, what exactly the Costume Institute does with it, I don't know. I don't know if they have specific charities that they give it out to. But
okay, because I was about to say some stuff like they looked at it one time and they were like, those poor people, they don't need none of this. We need more money for costumes. Anyway, so I don't think we're going to be invited back to the Met Gala ever. Looking at the showdown between these two institutes, right? Let's look at their heavy hitters. Both of these places are known for some iconic pieces that they have. And a lot of them are super well known. But how do they kind of stack up against each other? Because you're looking at two institutes that are similar in the fact that they're museums, and that's kind of where the similarities stop. They have different pieces from around the world, but they kind of have different ways of how they present things.
I would say the Louvre has probably the most famous piece of art in the entire world, and that's the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard of the Mona Lisa. Everybody's seen a picture of it. It's been in movies. We all know what the Mona Lisa is. So right there, the Louvre, they're already winning brownie points here, right? Because they have the gold standard.
Yeah.
But you and I have been to the Louvre. We've seen the Mona Lisa.
Everyone says the same thing.
It's smaller than I thought it would
be. Anytime you enter the room, you can hear people say, it's so much smaller than I thought it would be.
And even in my memory, it's even smaller than it actually is, because when you were saying it's roughly about the size of a poster.
Yeah. It's
like a smallish
it's like 20
poster.
by 30.
I remember it being even smaller than that.
I think because they keep it blocked off and it's flanked by security guards. So you're not right up on the artwork, even though somehow a lot of these protesters end up right up on the artwork to try to deface it a lot. But you are backed away, and they do make the space even bigger if it's really, really crowded. because they do have like a queue in
Yes.
this room. Again, like the room has like one entrance and one exit. So like everyone's going through, passing through the same way, but it is a lot tinier.
It's the only piece of art on that wall. It does have a plexiglass box around it. I think all of that makes it feel even smaller than it actually is. But I'm telling you, every time I've seen it, like in a movie or in a picture, it just seems like it's so much bigger.
Yeah,
and
I think they shoot it up close,
Yeah.
or if they're not in there actually shooting the Mona Lisa, they have replicas that they may have blown up to make it feel bigger. But it's actually just kind of like a standard canvas size.
I have to say, I was a little disappointed. I don't know. I thought when I saw it, I was going to feel something. And it's such a process even to get there because we were queued up. And then, like you said, there's a security guard. You're behind a roped off area. It felt just a little bit like, okay, take your picture and move on. Snap your picture and move. And you can't have a flash, so they're checking to make sure nobody has a flash. And it's just like, okay, you're to the front. You have 20 seconds to take your picture, get your selfie, move out of the line.
Yeah. I mean, it was very, and we went first thing in the morning. We were some of the first people in line. We didn't run, but we fast walked because we knew like we wanted to get that one out of the way. Like we knew anything you read or watch or anything says, get that one out of the way first, early.
Right.
Because the line can get ridiculous to see it because it is the most famous painting in the world, right? But yeah, that's almost, I want to say that's almost like early 2000s, late 90s rom-com, right? You thought you were going to eat, pray, love that thing. Like you were going to feel this moment like, I want to have this bolt of lightning, like, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. Instead, you were like, man, we climbed a lot of steps to get here.
I remember passing other paintings, and then when we saw the Mona Lisa, thinking some of those other ones we just fast walked by were way more impressive,
right,
than this one.
Oh man, it sounds like I'm.
I know it sounds like we're dogging the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, we kind of are. We're not invited to the Met Gala. We're not invited back.
I think
Paris.
it's one of those things that you expect it to be one thing, and then when the reality of it is a little bit not up to expectations.
Yeah. Oh man, if I had a nickel every time I heard that.
But as you were saying, like that's the thing everybody goes to the Louvre to see.
Yeah.
Like what's the stat? Something like 80% of people going to the Louvre are going because they want to see the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, that's like the number one thing on their list. And I think it's because, we talked a while back about Paris itself and why it often is like people's first destination that they want to visit if you don't live, I guess, around that area. It's because just like Paris, the Mona Lisa is oftentimes one of the first pieces of art people are exposed to.
Right.
You've probably seen it since you were a child and you don't even remember how far back it goes. So you want to kind of check that off the list, right? We were going to get some more, but we spent time just dogging the Mona Lisa. We'll be back with the Unscaled Travel Show.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-host, Amy.
Hello.
Remember, for all of our past episodes and interviews, check us out, unscaledtravelshow.com. And we are talking about, just a Goliath of a battle here. David and Goliath. I don't know if that's a proper,
No.
and probably not.
I would not say so.
But we're talking about the Louvre versus the Met in New York. This is how I originally framed this to you. If get the travel out of the way. If you had the chance to have one ticket to go back to either, and we've been to both of these, to go back to either the Louvre or the Met, which one would you choose? And that's kind of how we framed this and started comparing notes on it and everything, or memories on it anyway.
Right.
So we were talking about the most famous art piece in the world. That's the Mona Lisa. and how it's, been in the Louvre for many, many years. And it is probably one of the first art pieces that everyone around the world is exposed to, at least on some level. And it's very tiny. And that's often the criticism that you'll hear about the Mona Lisa, right? Let's compare that against the centerpiece of the Met, which is the most, I wish I had some patriotic music to play here, the most American thing that you can possibly have.
Well, and I have to say, I was not aware of this painting before we went to the Met.
That is crazy.
I had heard of it, but like off the top of my head, I couldn't have told you what it was, anything about it. And then when you're like, we have to go see this painting, and I looked it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I think some people will know, but some people won't know what this painting is.
My question to you is, what Kate Hudson movie did you see this in that you were vaguely aware of it?
I did not see this in a Kate Hudson movie.
That's where a lot of your exposure to art is, from rom-coms.
From 2000s rom-coms.
Yes. What Matthew McConaughey. Anyway.
You're silly.
That is I forgot what we were talking about. What were we talking? Oh, okay. So the giant painting is the Washington crossing the Delaware. And It is, number one, it's huge. You look, how big is it?
It truly is huge. It is 14 feet high and over 21 feet wide.
Yeah.
It's literally the size like a wall. It's bigger than some of the walls in our houses. House. It's giant. And when I say it's impressive, we saw it from the next room over through the entryway, and it's like you can't help but be drawn towards this painting.
And it's crazy in itself. Its history is crazy. I won't go into all of that, but it is a series of 3 paintings, actually, that Emanuel Lutz created in 1850s. The first one was destroyed, actually. I forget how it was destroyed, but the second one was the one that was bought and placed in the Louvre. Placed in the Met and became their centerpiece over time. And it actually, Emanuel Lutz was an American who lived in Germany when he started doing this. And the painting, he wanted it to be over the top and grandiose and it's almost mythical. Now, this painting, kind of sums up the American spirit, right? How we like to look at it and talk about it and things like that. And what he actually hoped for it to do was inspire like European revolutionaries, the ones that were going through things during that period of time in the mid 18th century, 19th century and all of that. Fun fact is that he used American tourists and American students over there on like visa as some of the models.
Oh, really?
In Washington crossing the Delaware. So, you see Washington, but it was some dude, right? You had to have a model of it. So, but it is big. It is grandiose. It is a huge oil painting. It's been romanticized almost to the point of American myth. And, it looks epic.
So comparing it head to head with the Mona Lisa, there are
no competition.
There are no security guards. There was one security guard standing in the room, but he's not directly in front of the painting. He's just in the room, making sure nobody touches it. It's not behind plexiglass. It's actually in this very ornate gold frame. There's nothing roping it off. You could technically walk right up to it and almost touch it.
Yeah.
And there's benches set up in front of it so that you can sit and just enjoy this painting. It is a totally different experience.
Yeah. And in fact, that's, I guess, might be a con too, because in January of 2002, it was actually defaced by a former Met employee or a guard, where he actually glued a picture of the September 11th attacks to it.
Wow.
It didn't cause any major damage, but it is one of those things where like you can walk right up to it.
Right.
And I'm a little bit afraid for it. Like, I don't want somebody defacing. Man, you remember just walking in that room, like you said, you're just kind of drawn to it. You see it from a couple of rooms over. And I remember just being just in awe. I stood at the back of the room. I stood in the middle of the room. I stood up close to it. And I was just like, I looked at it from one side. It's big.
It is huge.
Like I went to, you kept going, hey, let's go. Let's see the rest of it. And I was just like, oh,
I kind of just left you there.
Yeah,
and
you
went
did.
To
You
the
just
next
left me.
room.
And then I was like a 6-year-old.
But I'm like, that's what art.
I couldn't find you.
That is what art's for. You should be enthralled by it. So,
it was
in
so
my
cool.
opinion, Mona Lisa, most well-known piece of art in the entire world. That's a point in its favor.
Yeah.
But the impressiveness of the paintings at that point has to go to Washington crossing the Delaware.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Just for the fact that I kind of got lost in it. And it's one of those paintings also, I mean, and people have different artists that really speak to them, but it was one of those that when people were walking up, different people who weren't with each other, it's one of those things that people just started talking to each other about this painting. Same thing with the Mona Lisa. I saw people just leaning over and saying like, wow, did you ever think you'd, I saw that the day we visited there was a couple there, an older couple, and she leaned over to this other person, the lady, and she was like, I never thought I'd live to see the day where I would get to see this in person,
Right.
So there's some art out there that does speak to people, and it, we all have these like almost similar dreams with our travels and journeys and everything. And both of those pieces, very different, and very famous for different reasons and everything, but they speak to people.
They both invoke a feeling.
Yeah. Heavy feelings within people. Unscaled Travel Show. We're talking Showdown. Louvre versus the Met. It sounds way more serious than it is. It's Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer Amy.
Hello.
We're in beautiful Las Vegas in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios, but in our hearts, we're in New York and Paris, talking about the Louvre and the Met and the strong feelings that art can invoke. And more importantly, which place is better? I think that's way more important.
There has to be a winner.
Like the Highlander, there can only be one. And if you get that joke, we can be friends. We were showcasing the two main iconic pieces of each place, the Washington crossing the Delaware for the Met, the Mona Lisa, and the Louvre. But those aren't the only pieces that each one of these museums have, right? They have at any point, both of them, hundreds of thousands of pieces. So we can't get to all of them. But there are some other iconic pieces that really, I mean, they couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
But they're still incredible in their own, in their own right. And starting with the Louvre, looking at things like the Venus de Milo.
Right. Yeah. It's, it's another one of those that you hear about and you see pictures of it. You see it in movies. And so I think you have this idea of what it's going to be like to see it in person. And this is actually bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was much bigger, or maybe it's just because it was on like a pedestal, and so it stood higher than I thought it was going to be. But I was surprised by kind of like the deterioration of it, and I don't know why. I mean, it's many, many, many years old, but I just for some reason thought it would be in better shape.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit like, oh, okay, it looks better in pictures.
A little bit about it. The Venus was rediscovered in 1820 in the Aegean Sea on the island called Milos. But they think that it was created sometime around the year 100 BC, right?
Well, then I feel bad for saying that it doesn't look so good. Because if I was that old, I would hope to look that good.
Judgy Jurgen over here. They think, they don't know for sure, but they believe it's a statue of Aphrodite, who at one point had arms, and her arms are no longer there. So it makes it even more like famous. And the missing arms thing is also kind of like, I think, lends to the mystique of the Venus. But it is the showcase centerpiece of their classical section at the Louvre. And I actually stumbled upon it. Like
Right.
we weren't looking for it. We just walked into a room. I think we walked the wrong way into the room, like through against the natural flow of the room. And we saw a crowd like looking at something, and we walked past them. We were just like, okay, we're on to this other stuff. And then I turned around. I was like, oh, I think this is something. You walked up, you were like, wait, this is the Venus. So,
I know. I think that's when we were looking for the Egyptian section at the Louvre, and we couldn't find it.
I don't think we ever found the Egyptian
No,
section.
because they were changing some exhibits up, so some of the rooms weren't available.
Okay.
And obviously that wasn't on the map. And so we did happen to just kind of walk past this, which I feel is maybe one of the things about the Louvre that I think they could kind of do a little bit better.
Escalators?
Escalators one, but it was kind of hard to find some things. And there's not really a lot like, oh, if you're trying to find this, go here, here, and here. You just sort of stumble upon different things.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the Met is laid out a little bit better, and there is that natural flow, as you were saying, from one space to another. But when you walk into the Met, you immediately have the option to go into the museum side to the right.
Yeah, it's clearly pointed out. Like,
yes.
You start with their Egyptian
And
section.
that was pretty impressive on its own.
You kind of have this like adventure feel when you're walking around the Louvre, though. I don't know, like, remember at the end of like an hour, you got onto me because I kept humming the song to "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego." I just kept humming it. I don't know why. And then when you got onto me, I switched to the Indiana Jones theme. It felt like a little victory, like a little adventure. I mean, just wandering around there. I was like, oh, I am an archaeologist like Indiana Jones now. It was fantastic. Compare that, like the Venus de Milo against the Temple of Dindor inside the Met. And this is an actual Egyptian temple that they gifted us in 1965. They relocated it because I think a dam was going to submerge it or something like that. And so they gifted it. And now it sits inside the Met. So you can actually walk around and inside this real Egyptian temple, which is just mind blowing. I thought it was a recreation.
I did too.
I was like, oh, that's cool. They recreated like an Egyptian temple. And then you walk up and start reading about it, and you're like, no, this is just one day. I don't know. Do they write the number on the bricks and then they just ship it across like they did the London Bridge in Lake Havasu?
I don't know, but I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Again, you walk kind of into out of the lobby and into the first exhibit room, and there's just these giant Egyptian sculptures and this water, and beyond that is this temple. And it was the middle of the day on a weekend when we did this, and there were a lot of people at the Met, but none of the rooms felt crowded. So even in that one section, it was like we were able to walk right up to the temple, stand there, like see it up close. One of these experiences that you think you're never gonna have.
Like a 2,000-year-old temple, and literally, I don't know if you saw the guy and his son. I don't think he was supposed to be doing this, but he was like eating a sandwich, like sitting there right next to it. I don't think you're supposed to bring food in there.
Probably
and
not.
he was eating like a full-on Subway sandwich. It was like a 12-inch meatball right next to a 2,000-year-old Egyptian temple. So that's crazy. And then of course, there's other pieces like the Winged Victory of Samothrace, which is beautiful in itself. The giant art piece, Napoleon's coronation. And they have so many pieces at the Louvre, but it's almost a little bit different feel as far as contemporary art because while they have the art pieces from the Mediterranean and the French area, and all of this, they don't have things like the Arms and Armor Hall.
Right.
Like the Met does, which
was
is
really cool.
Crazy cool.
That was probably one of my favorite parts of the Met. And maybe it's the American in me, but I loved it.
And of course, we already mentioned the Costume Institute. So, a little bit different pieces, same feelings, right? Unscaled Travel Show. Stay right here. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
Coming to you from beautiful Sin City. We're in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios, which I think we would make a good centerpiece in one of these. In the Louvre, maybe.
Sure.
Give me a nice ruffly hat.
Sure.
Or paint me like Washington, put me in the Met.
You would love that, actually.
I would love that. That is a birthday idea.
Actually, you would want to be in the armor room from the Met, I think, holding one of those giant swords or the many, like old guns that they had in there.
But you know, they have those painting gifts that you can get, like you can send in the picture of the person and you have like get them back and they're like an armor or something. Yeah. If they can put me like General Washington on this boat, then that's a great present.
I will remember that for your birthday.
Or if any of our listeners want to take a picture of me and have me, I'll take Napoleon too. Just riding the white horse. You know that one where he's riding the white horse and it's bucking up and he's like pointing at the Arby's next by. He's like, "Let's go."
The Arby's.
The fresh beef and cheddar. We're doing that. We are looking at, we're comparing the Louvre versus the Met in New York. We're discussing some of their iconic pieces. And really, I mean, even the buildings themselves are iconic. And they have their own approach to how they present their art. And really, it kind of, if you look at their art and their architecture, you can see what they're going for here. The Louvre, we kind of mentioned before, it was originally built as a fortress in like 1190. Over time, it became more of a royal palace and a royal residence before 1793 becoming a museum. And it really speaks to, I mean, we touched on it just a little bit, but it speaks to more of how they view their art collection and how they present it to the public. Somewhere around like 70% of the Louvre's collection is European or Mediterranean based. And that's, and they have the classical, the Roman and Greek statue we were just talking about. But they do have a huge focus on the Italian Renaissance, the French, like neoclassics, like the Dutch Golden Age, things like that. And that's kind of how they present it. And it is in this building that, I mean, it looks palatial because it was palatial.
Yeah.
Which is totally opposite of the Met, which was, they wanted to touch on it, but we have a real hard feeling against royalty things here in the United States.
I mean, to me, the Met, from the outside, it is very impressive. It's a cool building. You see it, like, oh, this is something special. But you walk in, and most of the rooms are exactly kind of what you imagine when you think of an art gallery. Kind of plain walls, everything's white or very light woods. You feel like you're in more of an art gallery than a museum, I would say. Certain rooms, they have this kind of atmosphere to them, like the armor room, like the sculpture garden. I don't know if you remember, it was like an atrium and it had all these different sculptures in it. Certain rooms have a really great feel to it, but for the most part, it felt like an art gallery.
Yeah. I think most museums, and so the Met qualifies as that, right? But it's an idea and a way to let the art or the sculptures or whatever be the main focus, not to draw attention away, but to kind of just put the spotlight on them. And that really was the goal when they created the Met, was they wanted to represent global art, and not just from a time period and not just from one region, but more from around the world. And so when you go into the Met, we talked about, you begin to the right and it's the Egyptian, and you go into, where the temple is and all of that. But also over time, they've gotten better about including more like indigenous American works, more Asian artists, more sub-Saharan African pieces. and these kind of things where we talked about the difference in the Louvre and what they focused on at that time. And so that also, I think, is reflected in just how you visit it, how you see it, and the overall experience of it.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the Louvre, it's the building itself is impressive. The entrance is impressive because now there is that glass pyramid outside. There's the beautiful gardens. You walk into the pyramid and you actually descend down the staircase to get to kind of the lobby. It's an experience to go to the Louvre. Let me say that. Just going to the Louvre in itself is what you want to do. But in walking around, it did feel like a whole lot of paintings of there's an old guy on the wall. There's a family on the wall. There's a kid playing with his dog on the wall.
Just another old Italian guy.
But it's like, it was all beautiful, but it all kind of felt like the same artwork over and over and over. Yeah. And I know they did have some other exhibits that weren't open when we were there, so we didn't get to see them. But it did feel like a lot of this older European artwork. Whereas the Met did have a much bigger collection. And I remember walking into one room and I'm like, oh, there's Degas here. And I'm looking around at all these paintings that I never thought I would see in real life. Yeah, the ballerinas.
You even had a brief conversation with the stranger.
With the stranger about one of them. Yeah. We walk into another room and it's all Monet's water lilies. And it's just like all these paintings that I've heard of and I've seen pictures of. And they're all in this space, but it didn't feel like I'm looking at the same type of painting over and over at the Met. I personally am not a fan of pop art, but they even had kind of a pop art section in there. We did kind of briefly go in and go out of that one, but it is a much more eclectic mix at the Met, I would say.
I read somewhere, and I remember, I don't remember who wrote it, but I did read somewhere someone saying something to the effect of like the Louvre is a love letter to Western civilization, whereas the Met is more of a mixtape from around the world.
I could
kind
see
of
that.
shining a light on that. All cultures produce world-class art, not just Europe.
Right.
And I know people, again, they have certain feelings about museums. And there was a whole time when Napoleon renamed it the Museum Napoleon, basically.
Of course he did.
And he stuffed it full of pieces from conquered lands, which a lot of people to this very day are very upset about. You think they should return a lot of this stuff. And that argument is much bigger than this show. So I'll leave that there. But it is telling when you go to places like the Met and certain other museums where it feels more almost art inclusive, culturally inclusive, and you get bigger tastes from around the world, not just like if the Met was just American artists, I think it would be like a severe letdown.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it would be like a really big letdown to have that, but it is, both of them are wonderful experiences. They're
very different.
They're vastly different.
Yes. I mean, I think when we were walking through the Louvre, I spent more time looking at the building itself and the grand windows and the crown molding than some of the actual paintings, because I just found myself so enthralled with the building that I was bypassing the art on the walls.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where the Met was like, we don't want you to look at our crown molding, so we're not going to put any up. It's just a plain white wall, but here's a giant painting of Washington.
And they have, very quickly, they both have these kind of little eccentric parts of them, like the rooftop garden in the Met, that people now will stand in line forever. And we saw there was a huge line when we went. Yeah. We were like, we're not going to stand in line for this, but it offers some beautiful New York skyline views, whereas that glass pyramid with the Louvre was created, in the 1980s. It was very controversial. People didn't like it at first, but now it's iconic.
Yeah.
Now people look at it and they're like, wow, I saw that in a Tom Cruise movie. I want to go see where Tom Cruise was. And so, people feel how they feel. It's Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host and co-exploring.
Hello.
We are in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We're talking about the main differences and kind of comparing the Louvre versus the Met, two world-class museums, two world-class destinations. And if you could buy one ticket to only one of them, which one would you buy? Well, we'll answer that question at the end of the show here. We started getting into the visitor experience overall. And we did kind of touch on it early in the show about just the layouts, the lines, a little bit of the local feel of it. And you had, very strong feelings about, we were there first. It was early morning when we got to the Louvre. There was already a line, which it is one of the most popular museums in the world.
There
was
was
the overall
a line,
feel of just getting into there.
but it wasn't a super long line. I thought it would be much longer. We had already pre-purchased our tickets, so it was kind of a timed entry, I believe, when we went. So we did have to wait in line, but not very long. And we went into the lobby, and it didn't feel super crowded there. But then as soon as you get into the actual museum itself, I think too, because of how it's built, how it was built and laid out, it's kind of narrow. It's a big U shape, but it's narrow. And so it felt crowded everywhere we went. Yeah. Whereas the Met, we purchased our tickets online when we were standing outside the building. There were all these long lines to get in, but it was mainly to purchase tickets inside at the ticket booth. We purchased on our phone. We walked through, they scanned. We immediately could go right into the exhibits. And once you got into the exhibit space, it didn't feel that crowded because it's such a spread out space that all the people kind of just naturally dispersed, I guess.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Of course, the Louvre, with its intentions being a royal palace at one point, it wasn't, I don't think in the 1600s they were like, hey, one day 10 million people. I don't think they had 10 million people on Earth back then.
Right.
But 10 million people are going to come visit this thing every single year, right? So you have this enormous but non-linear layout, which, again, with the Met, you have 2 or 3 openings, so people are flowing in and out of rooms. The Louvre is more like a house. If people came to your house right now, they'd probably walk into the bedroom and be like, okay, and now I'm going to run into people walking out of the bedroom and everything. So it does have that feel, which if you are with people that like to get up early and go see the big things first because you know and recognize there's going to be crowds, awesome. You're going to be just fine. You're going to do your, 3 or 4 hours at the Louvre, even though you could do weeks at the Louvre, and you'll be fine. If you're with the people that are like, we'll get to it after lunch maybe, or like, get ready. Just wear comfortable shoes. During peak seasons, there's going to be lines to everything. Lines to get in, although I think they do pretty well there, but also lines to the major works, right? It's a little bit of a hike to get to the Mona Lisa. It's a little bit of a hike to get from the Mona Lisa to the Venus, and so on and so forth and everything. So you're just going to have to understand that that's just how it's going to be. Whereas the Met, we went during the smack dab middle of the day, last second. We were like, hey, let's do it. We got in, very short wait. And then we never really felt like people were just like crowded all around us all the time.
I would say too that I kind of talked about it earlier, but we had a map for both properties. It was much easier to identify things on the map and find our way there at the Met than it was at the Louvre.
They had much clearer maps.
Yes. At the Met map, they had a map for each level, and then it kind of gave you instructions on how to get from one level to the other. The Louvre, I felt like I was in a maze. And it's like, we may find the thing we're looking for, or we may not. Who knows? And at some point, you kind of just give up, and you're just on a adventure of what's around the next corner.
There are a lot of locals in New York that will tell you, they have the annual membership. And for lunch, if they work nearby, they'll often, dip in and go see a gallery or two on their lunch break. Come right out, because outside is awesome.
Yeah.
Because there's like little street vendors, like food vendors and everything else. So you can just grab a hot dog or whatever and boom, your lunch break, and you go back to the office, which is amazing. I don't know if you could do that with the Louvre.
The Louvre feels more secluded. Like it's not right in the middle of Paris.
That's
like
true.
How the Met is right there on the edge of the park. So I think too, like location centralized to other tourist attractions separates the Louvre a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I'm just kind of looking at it. Yeah. What about the ticket prices? What did you find on ticket prices, current ones?
I was a little surprised because I couldn't remember how much we paid to get into the Louvre, but just looking it up, it's 17 euros a person. Not bad.
Which works about what, 18, 19 bucks?
Yeah. I mean, it's roughly 1-to-1.
What about the Met?
The Met, if you are not a New York resident, $30 a person. So it is more expensive to go to the Met than the Louvre. The Louvre does also have audio guides, like tours that you can take, although some people have said they didn't feel it was super helpful. I know someone who hired a guide to walk them around the Louvre. And
really?
She said that was actually extremely interesting because the Louvre had a lot of stories about the pieces that you otherwise wouldn't have known.
That's interesting. Now, we did that for like the Vatican when we toured the Vatican and different places. So I never thought to do that at the Louvre, but I might consider
They did
that.
a skip the line with the guide, and they actually got in an hour before everyone at the Louvre. So there are options. It was costly, a lot more than 17 euro a person.
Sure.
But she said that she would never go back to the Louvre any other way.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. Let's kind of look at the details from the beginning, right? Kind of recap it a little bit. I think in terms of just historical grandeur, iconic works, and what we just call drama of it all, I think the Louvre, I mean, unless I'm wrong here, I think the Louvre would probably come out on top there.
I agree with you, yeah.
When we look at maybe cultural art inclusivity, the ease of the visit, the just surprising things, again, like the armor hall and the Met Gala costumey parts of it, if you're into that, that offers something that you really don't find too many other places on that scale as well. So I think if you're looking at that, the Met gets a huge point in its favor as far as that kind of wow factor, that surprise factor. The exhibits too, like we went, we didn't know they were doing this big costume exhibit that showed dresses and costumes from, I mean, all kinds of stuff.
It had something like 300 different pieces in it, and it was clothing all the way back to like, I don't know, 1700s in there, to things that had just been recently worn in movies and other Met Galas. So it was this wide range of costumes, they called it, but it was really interesting to see that. And some of it was very theatrical, and some of it was just like, here's a beautiful silk gown from the 1800s.
Yeah. So when you look at it, it's almost like the Mona Lisa versus George Washington, or the Venus de Milo versus
the Fashion Institute. Yeah.
And the samurai armor, different things like that. So, I mean, I know I don't want it to be a cop out to say that I think you would win no matter where you went, but it really does come down to your vibe. What are you in the mood to see?
Yeah.
But because I think either way you go, you're gonna be impressed. It's well worth any kind of money that you're paying to get in there. But it all comes down to your personal, like what you personally want to view that day.
So for me, I enjoyed both experiences.
Ooh, but you have a clear-cut winner.
I would say I was more impressed by the artwork at the Met, but if I had to buy a ticket right now to go back to one of them, it would be the Louvre.
Ooh, the Louvre.
Because
really?
I do feel like...
I didn't think you would lean towards the Louvre.
I know. But I feel like I spent so much time looking at the architecture that I didn't fully get to experience the art in there. And I think you have to go back a second time. And as you said, there's so much in there. It would take weeks to really see everything.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt like I saw everything at the Met.
We saw it all.
I mean, we didn't see it all, but I kind of feel like
I know.
we saw a good 80% of it.
I like it. I think, again, no matter which one you choose, you're going to have a heck of a good time. So get out there. Be sure to buy your tickets online. Skip the line where you can. And enjoy your visit. It's Unscaled Travel Show. We'll see you guys next time.